Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this afternoon's webinar, which is part of our Clearing Record series. So today we're going to be looking at clearing out some of your older customers, suppliers, and nominal code records. So it is part of a series, so we are doing these in chunks, and what you will find is we do refer to some of the other sessions that are available. So they will be available either by a recording or we will have live sessions on as well. So we will give you more information on that towards the end of the session there today. So my name's Jackie, I'll be taking you through today's slides, but we do have Michael and Matt on hand in the background for all of your questions. So if you do have any questions today, please do get them submitted to us throughout the session. Don't feel you need to wait till the end, and we'll try and get an answer to you as soon as possible. First of all, though, some housekeeping. So your microphone will be muted, and that just means you can't speak to us directly. So if you do have any questions, please do use the questions panel by using the icon that looks like a speech bubble with the question mark in the middle. And also there is a handout now uploaded, and that will give you a copy of today's slides. So if you want to take a copy of those, then please do so. Also, there will be a recording of today's session available shortly after today's session, and links to that will be in the follow-up email today. Okay, so I'm going to start with the contents and then a very quick poll. So we're going to be looking at why clear out your records, and then we're going to do a really quick sort of recap of Clear Audit Trail. So if you haven't seen that session, don't worry, we are going to do a quick recap of that, but that is a session in its own right. And then we will go through deleting customers, suppliers, and nominal codes and show you some tips to try and get the most out of that. We'll quickly talk about compressing the data and give you an alternative if you can't delete a record by looking at inactive records. And then finally, if we've got any final questions, we will round those up at the end for you. So just before we begin, I am going to launch a quick poll because I do just want to see how many of you have already attended our Clear Audit Trail session. Okay, we have run it this week. We did it just before Christmas and we have done it in the past. So it doesn't matter which session, just have you attended any of those sessions. It just gives us an idea of how many of you got that background knowledge about the Clear Audit Trail. So we'll just give that a moment or two for you to submit your answers across. I'd like to get around 70% of you voted, just so we've got a good portion of you. And they're coming through there now. So we just hit 75%. So we'll just close that down. And at the moment, majority of you, 61% have. We do have a portion of you haven't, but don't worry. Like I say, we're going to do a quick recap of that process in today's session. Okay, so first of all, we're just quickly going to talk about why clear out your records. Okay, we talk about it this time of year. It's a tradition of ours to do this in January because we do find that people do come back and want to do year end, but also they want to clear out their data. It's not something that has to be done, and it's not something that has to be done at the same time as year end. So when you choose to clear out your records, it is entirely up to you. Okay, it is an optional task. It's not something you are enforced to do, but what it means is that the data you're going to be using is up-to-date data. You're not trawling back through sort of 10, 15 years worth of data each time that you're doing a filter or a search. So it means some of the functionality in the software, like some of your drop downs, your searches, your filters, will be more effective because you're only looking at the relevant data, not lots of old records. And in turn, that can sometimes mean that it can speed up general processing in your software. Okay, I say in some cases, and I do have a caveat on there, is because speed issues in your software aren't always necessarily down to the size of your data. Okay, so I'd hate to say clear out your data, it will solve all of your problems, because there could be something else impacting that. So quite often, things like environmental issues, things like your antivirus software, your network speed, internet speeds, etc. All of those can impact this processing speed in Sage as well. Okay, so just please do bear that in mind. But you might want to take a look at your data and see how far back your data goes. And then you may want to make a decision about bringing that more up to date and removing some of those older records. Now, a common question we get at that point is, well, don't I need to have 6 or 7 years available for VAT purposes? And yes, you do need to have access to that information, but it doesn't necessarily need to be in your live data. So what you can do to resolve that is take an archive of the data first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to very quickly just show you how you can take an archive at any point in time so that you've got that archive. And I will very briefly explain the archive of the data because we do again have a session on archiving tomorrow afternoon. So I don't want to go too in depth with that, but an archive allows you to create a read-only data set that you can access at any point for reporting purposes. It doesn't clear out data, that's what the clear audit trail does. But archiving your data just allows you that sort of point of return in a different format to a backup. So to quickly do that, I will just show you very briefly in the software, because you will be prompted to take an archive as part of your year end. But like I say, you might not be tying this in with your year end. You could be clearing your data 6 months after your year end. So you can do an archive through Tools, Period End, and Archive Company at any time. And what that allows you to do is specify a description and the folder, but you can't move the path to the data. It will always be held alongside your data. If I quickly take this one, click OK. To access that archive at any time, you can go into File and Open Company Archive. And as you can see there, we've got the archive I've just created. Now, when we open that, it just looks like my live data set, except for when we have a look along the top, it does say archive data, and it won't let me process in there. So I just load this up. At the top, you can see it says archive. Okay, so I can't process in this data set, but I could go and run reports. So I could look at those older invoices, those older records, those older activities. Now, like I say, I'm not going to linger on that too much because we've got a dedicated session tomorrow with Michael. So if you can join us on that one, we'll go through the ins and outs of that one tomorrow. So just to get back to my live data, I'm going to go to File, Open and Company Data and just pop back into the live data set that we have there. So taking that archive is going to cover you if you do need to retrieve that information for VAT purposes, okay, because you know you can go back to that. So what we're going to do next is we're just going to very briefly recap the clear audit trail, because clearing out your customers, suppliers and nominals is heavily dependent on a clear audit trail being removed. Because one of the key things we're looking for when we're trying to delete a record is the activity to be cleared. And the only way we can do that is by running a clear audit trail. So what you'll find is if you're clearing other features in the software, so for example, invoices, orders and quotes, which we're covering tomorrow morning, that's not actually dependent on any other feature. We don't need to run a clear audit trail for that, but we do to get the customers, suppliers and nominal codes into a state where we can delete them. So clear audit trail removes transactions from the transactions window and also from the activity on the customer, suppliers, nominal codes, bank accounts. But they do need to meet certain criteria in order for us to remove them. And that is quite clearly on the clear audit trail process. It shows you exactly what criteria they need to meet there. With a clear audit trail, you get to specify the dates you want to clear up to. Okay, so you might want to clear up to a couple of years ago. You might want to leave a little bit more data on there. You are in control of that element of it. But the transactions prior to the date you've specified also need to be fully paid. So if it's an invoice, it needs to be an invoice that's allocated to a payment. And if applicable, it needs to be bank reconciled and VAT reconciled. And it can't be allocated to a transaction that also doesn't meet that criteria. Okay, so there's quite a few things we need to be meeting before we can clear that data out. And as we mentioned earlier, it will also remove the transactions from the customer and supplier activity. Now, clear audit trail can take some time, okay, so that's why today we're going to be working on two data sets. I have a pre-clear audit trail data set and a post-clear audit trail data set, so we can work with those, so we're not spending time watching a scroll bar go across. Okay, so I want to just give you an example first of all. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump into one of the data sets. There we go. So this data set here, as you can see at the top, I have named this pre-clear audit trail. So this is a data set where we haven't run a clear audit trail yet, and we haven't cleared out any of the older data in this data set. I just want to show you first of all what happens if I try and delete customers in this data set. If you go into help though, first of all, help and about, within here you can see if a clear audit trail has been run and up to which date it has been run. So within here in help and about, under configuration information, we do have one that says clear audit trail date, and this will tell you if that has been cleared. So as you can see at the moment I haven't, because it's saying NA. So this one hasn't been cleared. If we go into the customers, you can see I've got quite a few customers, and what we can do in the customers window is we can sort it by things like account name, or I may also want to sort it by balance. So the first thing we need to think about when we're deleting records is not only do they need to have no activity, but there's other criteria they need to meet in order to be deleted. So the first thing is that they can't have a balance on them. So immediately, this one here, and this one down at the bottom here, and all the other ones down here, we won't be able to clear those because they have a balance on them. But we do have a chunk of them here which are all zero balance. Okay, so potentially we could delete these ones. However, there is other criteria, and I'm going to pick on this one here. So we've got a zero balance on here, but if I try and delete this one by highlighting, I'm going to delete, we get this here, and this tells us exactly what those criteria are. So the first one is the balance remaining on the account. Well, we know there's no balance on there. Two is that there's still transactions associated with the account. So that's where we're referring to the activity. Okay, so we'd need to check the activity. But also it won't allow us to delete records if they are associated with projects. So if they're tied into a project record, or if you're using Go Cardless and you have a direct debit mandate on that account. Okay, now they're not as common, so we're not going to go too far into those ones, but they are also reasons. So if you've already eliminated the balance and that there's no transactions, those are your next places to have a quick look. So if we have a quick look at this one in particular, I'm going to double click onto here, bring the record across onto here. If we go into the activity, this is the window we're referencing. Okay, so within here you can see, although we've got a zero balance, we've got an invoice and a payment matching each other. They've been paid off against each other. They're not outstanding. That doesn't matter because those transactions are still there. And as long as those transactions are there, we'll not be able to delete this record. And that's where the clear audit trail comes in to play. The same happens with suppliers. So if we pop into suppliers, and go into one of these ones down here. We're trying to delete this one again. If we look at the activity, you can see we've still got transactions posted on there. If I try to delete this one, the criteria is slightly different. Just find the delete option there. So rather than Go Cardless, what we can't have is it acting as a subcontractor. Okay, so if it's linking into CIS and that's not yet complete, then again, you need to look at that before you can delete this record. Now, similarly, I pop into nominal codes. The same goes for our nominal codes. So I'm going to find the ones that I've created earlier. Pop into this one here. But try to delete this one. Again, we get a list of the criteria that are preventing us from deleting that. So first of all, a balance on the account, which you can clearly see there is no balance. Transactions on the account. If we look at this one, I know that there will be transactions on there, but there are a couple of other ones here as well. So first of all, nominal code might be marked as a control account. So if it's a control account, you'll be able to see that in settings and then control accounts. Nominal code is in use by Direct Debit Manager. So again, if you're using Go Cardless, it's in use by invoice payments. So if you're using the invoice payments feature, where it allows you to add a link onto your invoices to pay an invoice via PayPal or Stripe. And then finally, if it's a CIS account, again, so if it's in use for CIS, then that would need to be changed before you can delete the record. But it's likely that's still in use if that's the case. So basically what I'm saying here at the moment is it won't allow you to delete a record if it's in use. Okay, so it's really going to sort of prevent you from making any mistakes on accounts that are live and active. So what we're going to do now is we are going to run the clear audit trail, but we're going to assume that we've run that clear audit trail, and I'm going to bring you onto a data set that I created earlier. Just before I do, I'll show you where you can use that clear audit trail feature. So that's just in Tools, Period End again, and it's the clear audit trail option there. Okay, and this is where you can specify the date that you clear up to. And once you've specified that, you can tell the software to ignore or turn off bank reconciliation for any bank accounts that you're not reconciling. Okay, because that will cause you an issue of clearing down, because if there are transactions relating to that bank account and it's expecting them to be reconciled and they're not, it won't clear them. So you can tick the ones that you aren't reconciling, and that will help you out. Okay, so I'm going to pop you onto our other data set now. There we go. So as you can see, we've moved on to a post clear audit trail data set now. Okay, and what we can do to check that that clear audit trail has gone through is we can do a check and help and about first of all. When we go into clear audit trail, you can see in the configuration information, clear audit trail date was the end of December 2020. Okay, so technically it should have looked at all of my transactions up to the end of December 2020, and if they made the criteria, it should have removed them from the software. What I'll also find as a result of doing the clear audit trail is in my transactions, I'll have some opening balances. So when you do postings, a clear audit trail, it posts opening balances on your behalf with the date as per that clear audit trail. And that's for any balances carried forward as a result of that clear audit trail. So those are two signs your clear audit trail's gone through. So now that we've run the clear audit trail, let's have a look again at those same records. So if I have a look at my customers, we had a look at the Simpsons restaurant earlier. See if we can find it. There we go. So they've got a zero balance as they did beforehand. We open up the record and pop into their activity. We can now see their activity is clear. So providing that isn't linked to Go Cardless, we should be able to clear that one down, or a project. Okay, so clearing these out is very straightforward. It is a matter of highlighting them and going to delete. But I appreciate it's probably not an easy process for you to go through hundreds of those and just clicking delete over and over again. So what we're trying to do is show you ways in which you can do this in a much sort of speedier way, but also have confidence that it's going to do the right thing for you. So what you can do is, if you are happy to clear all of the records that remove, that have everything removed and don't meet all of the criteria for clearing, is what we can do is we can just highlight all of our records. You can just highlight multiple. So if you knew it was sort of 3 or 4, you could highlight them as so, and you could go into delete. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually clear all highlighting and then swap. So it highlights everything. And this is where people probably do get a little bit worried, because we've got everything highlighted. If I click delete now, is it going to delete things it shouldn't? Okay. But as we've seen, it won't delete anything unless they meet the criteria. So I've swapped, and at the bottom, I just want to highlight here, we have 57 customers in my data set. So that's probably quite small compared to most of you, but we've got 57 at the moment. What I'm going to do is click on delete and do a delete there. Now, what I'll also say is, before doing any of this, as well as your archive, make sure that you've got a backup. So if you're not happy with the results, you can always go back to that backup. That's always a point of return for you. So always make sure before you're doing anything that's removing data, you've got an error-free backup on there too. Now, as you can see, we're getting the same message there. But this time it's saying not all of the records were able to be deleted. And it's giving me the same 4 criteria. But I'm going to say OK to that. And I do just want to highlight now at the bottom, it's saying 57 of 37. So I'm going to clear this down. And once we've removed that highlight, you can see we've now got 37 customers. Okay. And so technically what it's done is it's cleared 20. It's cleared the ones that it could clear because they met the criteria, but all of those that didn't meet the criteria, it's left them behind. Okay, so like I say, it's not going to delete a customer that you're still working with, because if they've got activity on there and they've got a balance, it physically can't do that for you. So now you can see we've got 37 customers. It's cleared out a good 20 of them. If we have my customer there, Simpson's Restaurant, you can see they've disappeared. That's been removed from the software. So that's great. Exactly the same for suppliers. Okay, so exactly the same process. We can swap, and then we can go to delete. And again, we'll get the error because not all of them will be able to be cleared. But we've gone down from 31 records down to 21, as you can see below. So I'm just going to jump into nominal codes next. And I just want to show you again, it's exactly the same process. You can highlight and swap and clear whichever ones you want. But I just want to go back to those 2 nominal codes earlier. So I highlighted 4140 earlier. If I go to delete and say yes, now although we've done a clear audit trail, we're still unable to delete this one. So again, we can investigate this further. The first place I would try, because it's most common, is the activity. And when we look on there, you can see we've still got transactions remaining on there. So it's not going to clear those down, that record down, because it hasn't yet cleared these transactions. Even though they're from 2018, it could be that they're an unpaid invoice. There could be a reason why those invoices didn't clear down. They haven't met the criteria. So it hasn't been able to clear them. So we can't delete this particular record. But if we look at this nominal code here, 4320, there's no activity, or there shouldn't have been any activity. And I see why I've only run my clear audit trail up to 2020, not 2021. But if this had cleared down, if they were 2020, it should have cleared those down and we would have been able to delete that one. I knew I'd changed my dates somewhere. There we go. So that's basically it. It is quite simple, the process of deleting them. It's just understanding why they don't delete if they don't remove, and understanding the link to that clear audit trail process. Okay, so we're just going to pop back to the slides. I'm just going to skip through these because I just want to talk about an alternative. Okay, so it might be that you can't clear something down. It might be that the activity stretches too near to your current processing, clear audit trail, you can't run it sort of close enough to remove a transaction, or it might be something else. They may not be VAT reconciled and you can't reconcile that transaction for some reason. So there could be a valid reason why you can't get rid of a record. It shouldn't be all of them, but there may be one or two that you can't remove from your software. But with that in mind, we do have alternative options for you. So we do have the option of inactive records. So again, with records being marked as inactive, they have to meet certain criteria. Okay, so you can't just mark any account as inactive. They do need to have a zero balance on them. Okay, so you can't have something with an outstanding balance marked as inactive. Now, there's quite a few reasons, because there's lots of different records that can be marked as inactive. So customers, suppliers, nominals, and even products can be marked as inactive. So what we've got there is just a link into the article that explains all of the reasons why you can't flag a record as inactive. So if it's a stock record, you need to make sure that there's nothing left in stock. So the quantity in equals the quantity out. However, we'll show you on customers because we're focusing on the customers and suppliers today. So I'm just going to pop into the data again. I'm just going to see if I can do this on the suppliers, see if I've got one here. So like I say, they do need to meet certain criteria. So I'm going to do this one as an example. I know this one won't mark as inactive, but if I go into this record here, and to mark it as inactive, it's this box here. Now, when we try to mark it as inactive, again, if it doesn't meet the criteria, it will tell you why it won't do that. So I knew this one wouldn't, because the account balance is not zero. So immediately it's telling me because it's not zero, it can't be inactive. We do have a little link on here as well. It gives more information. So these do link into those articles that give you more information on that. We picked this one that's got a zero balance. Let's give this one a go, see if we can mark this one as inactive. Tick the box and save, and it has allowed that one there. So if we close that down, what you'll see now that we have marked that as inactive is in the inactive column here, which is showing we have the Y to indicate that that is inactive. Now, the benefits of it being inactive is that we can hide it from some of our windows. So if we're trying to do things like filters and searches, this is going to eliminate them from that. What we need to do in the top right corner is we've got this option to include inactive. So if I untick this box, you'll see my inactive records have disappeared. Now, if you are on Professional, we have a feature called batch changes. Okay, now batch changes allows you to impact multiple records in one go. And it allows you to change things such as the inactive flag across multiple records. So, for example, I'm just going to select a few. So I'm using my keyboard key, Control and selecting, because I'm on that selection style. I've got these records here highlighted. What I could do is go into batch changes and tick the box, and providing they meet the criteria for inactive, which unfortunately in this case they won't, it would mark those as inactive all in one go rather than me having to go into each record individually. So that is a feature of Professional, but worthwhile thinking about if you do have that feature, to try and save you a little bit of time rather than having to do it on a record by record basis. So that's another feature that's probably going to help you if you can't clear out those. So if you do have some residual records hanging around, that's a good feature for that. And I believe we could be doing a session on inactive records again in the near future. So again, check out our upcoming sessions. But again, we do have a recording of that session as well. Okay, this is a really good opportunity if you've got any questions to get those across to us. So I'm just going to have a quick look at the questions there. I do apologise. I think Matt and Michael are pretty much on top of them, but I just want to double check that for you. Yep, so far on top of them. So if you have got any questions, please do get those across and we'll see if we can get those answered for you. But what I'm just going to talk about next is compressing the data. Okay, now this is a great way of reclaiming any disk space that's been freed up by deleting records or deleting data. So the analogy we use for this one is the bookshelf. You've probably heard this one before. But when you're deleting records like your customers or your suppliers, your nominals, it could be transactions, it could be product records. When you're deleting them, you're essentially taking books off your bookshelf. Okay, but what you're not doing is sort of compressing those files back together and sort of regaining the space from those missing books on the bookshelf. So what you need to do to sort of reclaim those gaps is compress the data. Okay. And what you can do with the compression is focus just on the area that you've removed data from. Okay. Now this feature is found within file maintenance. We absolutely recommend before doing this step to take a backup of the data and also make sure that there's no errors in the data as well. So again, I'm just going to quickly show you that on my data set. So pop across again onto my post-clear audit trail data set. And I'm just going to go into File and Maintenance. And within here, this is where you can take a backup. So you can do a check data, and then you can also go into File and Backup and take your backup from there. So do that first of all. Make sure that you've done a check on the data. As you can see, I've done mine yesterday. But what we have in here is the option to compress. So I'm going to click on Compress Data, and it defaults to compress all data files. Now you don't need to do an all files compression because we're going to focus this in on the area that we've sort of removed data from. So I'm going to untick Compress All, and what we're going to focus on is our customers, which is the sales ledger, the purchase ledger, and the nominal ledger. If you've just done a clear audit trail, you just add in your audit trail and your bank accounts as well. If you were just clearing out invoices, so on Friday we do clear stock, then you would focus just on your products. Okay, so you just focus in on the area you've cleared out. I'm going to run the compress. Mine might be quite quick, and there you go, it's done. Yours might take a little bit longer depending on your data size. But as a result of this data compression, you won't see anything different. Okay, I think people expect something different to appear after a compression. It won't. Okay, it will just mean in the background those files have sort of been reorganized. After compressing, always again check your data again and then take another backup of your data. So what we want to make sure is that compression hasn't sort of unearthed any underlying data corruption there. So we can see there's no errors, which is great, and my warnings should be exactly the same as they were before. Okay, so that is compressing the data. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly do a summary for you. In the handout, there is lots of links there to things like Clear Audit Trail, Clear Stock. Why is Clear Audit Trail not removing some transactions? There's a great report to help you with that. So lots of handy links there for you. So first of all, clearing records is optional. Okay, so there's no pressure from us for you to do so. You just might feel that your data is getting to a point where it does need a bit of a clear out. Clearing all the data may allow you to work more efficiently. So it may help you with things like your searches, your filters, your drop downs within the software. Always take a backup of the data. Okay, and my recommendation would also be to take an archive of the data for reporting purposes prior to clearing any of the records that we're covering in this series. Records will only clear if they meet certain criteria. So I think one of the questions that's just come through is if you can't delete it due to another bit of criteria, then you'll need to investigate where it's linking to. So if it's a customer, is it linking into a project module? Is it linking into Go Cardless? So you may need to explore that, because until it meets that criteria, it's not going to remove. You can't remove an item. If you can't remove an item, you may be able to mark it as inactive, which again may help you just tidy up some of the windows in the software. And running the data compression should allow you to reclaim the disk space. So just remember the bookshelf analogy we explained earlier. Okay, so that takes us to the end of the demonstration. There's still a few questions outstanding there that are just coming through. So I'll just let the guys jump on those, and I'm just going to show you what we've got coming in terms of our upcoming topics. We've also got lots of help on our Help Centre. So first of all, we'll talk about the Help Centre. So if you go to sage.co.uk/help, or anywhere you are in the software where we have the question mark icon, that will launch our Help Centre. Select your topic, and within here you can find help on things like Clear Audit Trail clearing records. So you can pop in a search for absolutely anything. In financial year end, I believe there is one on here on housekeeping tasks after year end. So that's where you'll find all of the information on what we've covered today. Also, if you go to sage.co.uk/webinars, it will take you to this page here, and this is where you can find our recordings. So I've referred to a few of the sessions that we've already done, like Clear Audit Trail. You can find the recordings here, but we also do have our live upcoming topics, so you can see within here what we've got coming. So tomorrow we're looking at invoices, orders and quotations. We've got that company archive session and also stock. So if you want to join any of those, what you'll also see is we've got some of these are being duplicated as well. So we're giving you a second chance to join a live session. We're doing a brand new one next week, which is the data management tool. And that's very similar to what we've shown you today, but there's a tool that sort of combines a few of these features together all at once. So if you're not confident doing them manually, join us next week. We've never covered the data management tools before, so it's a brand new session. So that might be worthwhile taking a look at too. But I do just want to draw your attention a little bit further down this screen at the bottom. We are talking about February already, and what we do have is our next digital badge. Now, they proved really popular in November. What we're doing now is our next badge for banking excellence. So it's an opportunity for you to earn a digital badge which you can add to your profile. You can share that with your employers or future employers and even your colleagues. So it's a really good opportunity for you to join those sessions and get your digital badge. So you need to attend 6 of the 8 sessions. Because we're doing so many sessions, we are spreading them out across a 3-week period, and we're going to be doing them a few times so you can, again, get yourself registered for as many sessions as you can. So please do take a look and get yourself registered for those running throughout February there. In addition, what I'll say is we are also doing one for payroll. So payroll, we're going to be doing a statutory payments badge, and that starts on the 21st. So you can find out more information again on our webinars page if you want to register for that one too, or you have a colleague who would be interested. There's a quick question there. I think Matt has just picked it up, but I will just demonstrate it as well. So if Matt wants to stand down on that one, it's just about the ability to make a customer inactive or a supplier. Can you make it active again? So yes, you can. So if I go into my suppliers, where we were earlier, I'm going to include inactive again to show them. So we can easily show them again. I can go into that record and I can just untick. Sorry, my taskbar just getting in the way there. And it's as easy as that. Okay. So yeah, you can make them, it's not something that's sort of set in stone. You can go back on that one. Okay, I think that's us on top of the questions there now. So what we'll do is we'll pop on mute just for a few moments, just in case there's any final questions coming through, give you a chance to get those across. If you're leaving, just want to say thank you very much for joining us. Please do join us for some of our future sessions, if not our Banking Excellence series coming in February. But we'll pop on mute, we'll be back before we end the session today. Okay, I think we'll look to end the session there. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us. Take care, and we'll see you on another session really soon. Bye-bye for now.